Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse and Measure. If you haven't done so yet, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button down below. I just wanted to announce something and talk a little bit about the process of this whole endeavor. As of October 13th, my latest album, Fool's Leap of Faith, by my band called Visit, is out on Octave Records. And I'm so pleased and happy to have found my way into this incredible record label and this incredible company, PS Audio, which is doing such amazing work in the world of audio engineering and now in recording. So it started out as a company which is making audio equipment, especially high-end speakers, and it's really for the audiophile. They have a lot of various different price points to get into that if you want to have an incredible stereo system where you can really experience music on this deep level, this visceral level where you feel it for your whole body. But it is quite a bit of an investment. But what's really cool about the company is they started a record label called Octave Records, where they realized that audiophiles would not listen to good music if it was recorded poorly. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second. Or they would listen to bad music if it was. So recorded poorly would just mean it's just not done with good mics, bad mic placement, the resolution is lower. Even the standard resolution that we're used to today, which is 48 kilohertz per second, that means that the computer is sampling 48,000 times per second. You'd think that'd be enough. But there is a lot lost in that sample rate. And Octave Records samples at 11 million pieces of information per second. So my good friend Stephen Fleck, who has gotten into audiophile equipment, watched a bunch of videos by their founder, Paul McGowan, who's a brilliant writer and theorist and all-around great person. And he has an incredible YouTube channel for PS Audio where he talks about audio gear. In fact, him and his wife Terry were the ones who encouraged me to start this YouTube channel, Muse and Measure. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And they agreed and welcomed me into their studio to record this album. So I took a year sabbatical last year. And I didn't know that I didn't know about this record deal at the time, but it really helped focus me on my sabbatical and to write this album. So I wrote this album from scratch, starting in October last year, 1 year ago, this month. And over the span of about 6 months, I wrote 8 songs and arranged strings for them and wrote pedal steel parts and demoed them and sent them off to my drummer, Clint Carlson, and my bassist and mixer producer, Rob Weston, and they learned the parts. And we met in Boulder, Colorado in May and recorded this album over 6 days in their incredible studio. They have absolutely amazing gear. Best microphones in the world, best preamps, and of course recording at 11 kilohertz per second, 11 million kilohertz per second, which is just absolutely incredible. Now, what was interesting about this process, as opposed to recording how I traditionally recorded, is that they were going for a live band sound. In fact, most of the albums on Octave Records that I've heard are jazz bands or acoustic bands, where that's what they do. They have a set group that plays regularly, and they go in the studio, and one day, over a few hours, they record their album, which is basically a live performance. Now, I used to be that kind of musician. In fact, I played jazz for a while. But ever since I've focused on being a songwriter and a producer of music that was more about the recording process and recording art rather than a live performance, I record very differently. So my last few albums, basically I would make demos of them for the musicians to learn the songs. And then I would, make basically dummy tracks Or I would fly out to, say, Minneapolis, where my drummer is, and I would play along, me singing with an electric guitar, so it wouldn't be picked up by the mics for the drum. I'd be in my own like isolation room, and I would be singing the songs. He'd be playing along, and that would be, the bass for the recording. And then I would add all this other stuff. Either I'd play bass on it, or I'd get Rob Weston to play bass, and then I would just keep adding stuff on, layer after layer, and then eventually add my final vocals. I'd hire string players for certain songs, horn players, pedal steel player, whatever instrument I felt it needed. I have a friend in Switzerland who plays clarinet, saxophone. He would add stuff on. My brother, of course, is a musician. He lives in China though, so he would record stuff. We'd add that on. So it was really this hodgepodge of audio from all over the world, and thus the name Visit, because all this is about a visit. All these musicians come to visit and add their part. So this recording process, where we were all going to do it, in a room, or at least that was the goal of the audio aesthetic, was very, very different. So it really required a whole lot of rehearsal on my part. I rehearsed for weeks and weeks and weeks to make sure that I could sing the songs the way I wanted them to be sung. In the past, I would just do 80 takes, maybe take the top 20 takes that I liked and make a comp of them. Comping is where you can, take like a sliver, even a single word or an utterance, and use that from one take and then jump to some other take that you like, for the next word from. You can really make this Frankenstein of music, of a performance, using comp takes. And so I was used to doing that, but all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to do this in that studio. Their software doesn't have that capability, nor are they interested in recording in that way. They want to have a single performance. Now, they did let me do some punch-ins, and we did that whenever there was some mistake or we thought there could be something better. But for the most part, when you hear this album, they are one performance. And we did layer it though, which is something I don't think they'd done much of in that studio before. So on the first 3 days, we recorded drums, guitar, and bass all at the same time. And we were basically playing along with the demos with a click track so that they could all be in sync. And then once all that was done, I did my vocals. Mainly just because we couldn't get the string quartet in earlier. They were scheduling conflicts, and the pedal steel player, these were going to be the icing on the cake. And so I recorded my vocals just to, the drums, bass, guitar. I did put some Hammond organ, a little piano, just a couple other things, some other percussion was added as well. But basically, I was singing to this kind of rawer versions of the track, whereas in my other albums, I would always do vocals after everything was down so that I could feel inspired by all the music and know how to react to the strings and the horns and everything else that was there. So in this case, I had to just imagine those parts. I knew what they were because I'd written them. I wrote all these string parts for them. Of course, the pedal steel was not written out. It was improvised and played by this great pedal steel player named Charlie Rose. But I'd had to imagine what that would sound like. On the demos, I used a keyboard version of a pedal steel, which was actually pretty cool. So that was very kind of daunting to sing and not have all that information to sing off of. So I sang. Those were pretty good takes. I had a couple days where I was just too exhausted to keep going after 3 songs. And luckily my friends and producer, Stephen Fleck, let me know that it was, time to call it quits for the day or do something else. And then the second to last day, we added strings. We got this incredible string quartet who read, I don't know, if a fly landed on the page, they would play it. They were such good readers and just such great performers too. Amazing people to work with, led by Sandra Wong, who was someone I worked with on Reed Bai's albums. And that was just incredible to hear them play these string parts, because I had written all these string parts on a keyboard and with MIDI instruments, And I had some pretty good patches that sound good through Contact, but they don't sound like the real thing yet. So to actually hear them, you're a little nervous when you first hear them because maybe these parts suck, or maybe there's something missing here. Maybe I didn't write these right. And they're in the studio now, and this is the one shot. So it was definitely a leap of faith, and thus the album title, Fool's Leap of Faith. And then our last day we spent recording pedal steel and just cleaning up some other things, and we were done. And Charlie Rose did a great job on pedal steel. So this is the quickest turnaround I've done on an album since the first album I recorded. My first album in 2005 was just called Visit, and I recorded that in 6 days in this guy named Dave Drago's apartment in Boulder, Colorado. We did one day where we just recorded the drums, but once again it was this layering process. So that's always been the way I recorded. It's never been where it was me with other musicians in the room performing. And so this was a brand new thing, and I'm really excited about it, and I'd love to do it again, and I think we're going to record again this summer. So that's my task for this year, is to write a whole new set of songs. So you should check out, if you can, go over to Octave Records website, and you can listen to, I think, good chunks of the song. This is all very high definition versions of the album. If you don't care about that and you want to save a little money, or you want to wait to stream it on Spotify, that won't be for another 6 months. But you can go over and check the album out now and listen to some of the songs. I'll put the link down below. Of course, you should hear these songs by the songwriter that you are watching videos of, because you probably should see if I know what I'm talking about at all, or I'm just some idiot who writes terrible music and totally sucks, and you should move on to somebody who's actually good. So do yourself a favor, go check it out, make sure that this is worth your time to actually watch these videos. All right, with a little tongue-in-cheek there, I'm wishing you guys the best of luck, and I want to hear your music too. Some of you guys have shared some of your music, so please post it down in the comments, or send me a link in my email account, which is tyler@musemeasure.com. All right, best of luck with everything, and I will see you next time on Muse and Measure.